Are live. We are live. Here we are. Oops. Look, I have a big message to share with you today. And the title of this live is What If It's Not All in Your. What if all those feelings about, oh, I have no idea where I'm going, I'm not sure what's happening around me, all inside, I'm just in turmoil, I'm confused, most of all, I'm stuck. The same thing over and over and over. Oh, it's just change the way you think about it. It's not that big a deal, you know, and it's all in your head. That's not correct. That's faulty thinking. Thinking I lived with for nearly 70 years. 70. 70, not 17. 70. For nearly 70 years. I lived with that understanding that all I needed to do was to figure things out in my head and life would be grand. Not so. Trust me, I tried everything. Not so. Now, I'm coming boldly to you today because I just attended the 32nd annual Boston International Trauma Conference. Yes, 32 years. It's a conference put on by the Trauma Research Foundation, which is an organization, a research organization, obviously, in Boston, begun and continued to be overseen by Bessel van der Kolk. He's a trauma expert, spent his entire career, he's still at it, researching trauma. Now, does that word scare you? It is part of, and could be a major reason why you're having all those feelings of overwhelm and confusion, trouble making decisions. I can't sort my way. I'm just plain stuck. I remember that. Actually, I remember the day it happened. Now, if there was somebody here making comments, nobody's making comments yet, but if they were, I would say, if you ask me, I'll tell you about that day. But nobody's here, so I will carry on. For a long time, the world of science, and supported by data, good solid research, has been approaching this idea of therapy, difficulty functioning in life, as if it was all in the head. Now, talk therapy is one of the ways that people talk about counseling, that it's talk therapy. You talk about what's happened, you talk about how you feel, you talk about all kinds of different things. The joke is that you lie on a couch and talk to the therapist. Sometimes successful and making progress, and sometimes not. And I just want to say that the way it's described, a good descriptive title of it, I think, is called top-down, the top-down approach to these adapting issues. You know, just not, life isn't settled for me. I'm just bumping up against things. I end up being mostly hopeless, helpless in my life. And some of us, even in the midst of trying to carry on, are really feeling that way on the inside, and other people would never know. So that's top down, top down. And there is success with that. I'm not saying anything negative about that. There has been good progress made because of the data, because of the research, because of the great communication across that platform. I guess that's an okay word, across that platform. And it supports that they are able to help people desensitize to certain things that disrupt their inner peace. They are able to come up with strategies to help them to function in the areas that they find particularly stressful, that they can indeed live a normal life. Yes, that's top-down therapy. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but over the years, there have been other things going on that have been effective as well, and in some ways more effective than top down. And it's actually called bottom up. Isn't that clever? So there's a bottom up approach. And I hope it wouldn't surprise you to know that it's actually an approach that begins with the body. How the body's feeling, what's going on with the body systems. And for a long time, that approach didn't have a lot of data, a lot of research behind it. But that's changed and changing more. And actually this conference that I was just at, there was a wealth of information about the success of bottom-up kinds of approaches, therapies, if you will. Now, some of you may know these, so the top-down, you would say counseling, that kind of thing. Bottom-up, you might recognize as something like yoga or EMDR, eye movement, something response. Anyway, so there you go. Those are the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach, coming at it from the mind, from our mental skills, our intelligence, our thought processes, or coming at it from a bottom-up approach, which really takes the body into account, what's going on inside in the nervous system, or in actually all of the functions of the body. And if you've been around anybody, or if you're one of those people that you just find you feel tired all the time, or you've actually been diagnosed with some sort of a chronic illness, such as fibromyalgia, or even other kinds of serious diagnoses. Actually, one of them is, and I've just been learning about this one, it's quite interesting, this vestibular disruptions because of stress and anxiety and overwhelm can actually cause people to lose their balance, fall over, and have incredible episodes with imbalances like that, where they can't really function. And that can be coming from stress. Those are called somatic systems. Now look, I'm not going to go crazy with a whole bunch of terms. I do want to get to this basic question. Is all of this stuff just in my mind? That if I were a wise woman, I would have this under control. Okay, there's some stress going on in my life, but my neighbor has a whole lot more stress going on, and she seems a lot better than I am. She's doing better than I am. Well, first of all, we really don't know what's going on in each other's lives. We can even look on the outside. Oh, that's a nice house, has a picket fence, etc., etc. She's well-dressed and well-groomed and holds down a job. On the other hand, there could be terrible things going on the inside that we're not aware of. So this conference talked a lot about that. In the latest research, the research, but the top-down and the bottom-up approaches, and it's called, they call it everywhere in this trauma field right now, you'll hear the mind-body connection, the metaphysical connection in trauma. And it's real and it's true. A quick aside, as I mentioned, the bottom-up field hasn't had too much research. That's all being promoted. I heard a lot of it last week. But more importantly, the comment was made by one of the experts in the field. She has her name is Kathy Maldioni. And she's a PhD doctor in expressive arts, and she has her own research center, and her data is really supportive of the bottom-up approach of going through the body. But she mentioned that, yes, there's a body of research that's proving that this is all effective, but the OT people, the occupational therapists, have been doing this for decades and having success. There just wasn't any data that was retained, stirred up, kept and codified. So what difference does it make if it's in the mind or in the body? What difference do these approaches make? I'm going to tell you, it's dramatic. It's a dramatic difference. If you're a woman like me who has gone through that. Maybe not so long as me, and I hope not. But what if somebody said to you, or a friend, let's say we're talking about your friend, right? Said to your friend, you know, it's not really all in your mind. There's something biological going on that you don't have to take any blame for. It's an automatic thing. Just like, why would you take the blame for breathing? Why would you take the blame for something's coming at you and you blink? Why is there blame or guilt or shame involved in that? What if all this stuff has a biological foundation that if you knew what it was, you could help yourself. You could improve that automatic reaction. You could minimize it and calm your life down. Wouldn't that be great? Right? Well, that's all true. It's all true. And I can't wait to tell you. Now, I can't go into all of the details today in here, but I want you to know that it's something I have been talking, this is the exciting piece. It's something I've been talking about for a year at least, but probably more than a year. Very specifically, I have been talking about practices. You can see it's all on my YouTube channel. But today, I want to give you the core of the awareness, because the women that I've shared it with, my clients and other women that have been part of some of the other things I've offered, I'm doing a coaching group right now. I'm guiding a coaching group. And there's another one coming up. So if this hits a nerve and you're interested, be aware, because I'm going to start another one, a longer term coaching group is coming up. Now, okay, here's the core of the issue. This is how the body functions. It's just the way the body functions. Now, I'm sorry I don't have slides. I don't know how to do slides on the live yet. But I'll show you using my own body. Okay. There's a part of the brain that's called the amygdala, and it comes in, it sits just about here on the base in the back of our heads. Now, all the cutting edge research, they're talking about the brain stem and several different portions in there that are now, and I will get to share all those details with you when I go back and learn them carefully. But it's exciting news. But for now, it's still true and it still functions. So the amygdala is the place where all of our senses, and there are not just 5, by the way, there are actually 8 senses. That's a story for another time. All of the input from our 8 senses comes into our body through our skin, through our eyes, through our nose, through our equilibrium system, and they head right into the amygdala. The amygdala is the emotional and sense memory receptor area. Then, when it comes in there, the normal course of action in the peace mode, when we're just living in a peaceful, regular, everyday life, and those signals all come up into the brain, the cortex. And the thinking brain takes that information. What was that smell? Oh, I've smelled that before. I bet somebody burned some toast. Or, uh-oh, I better pull the car over. I know that means I'm running out of oil. Whatever. So because your thinking brain has had good experiences, evidence, and built this system of knowledge, those smells or whatever come in from the senses make sense, and they go to help you make decisions. And those that come in here on the amygdala, you're probably seeing this in reverse, but anyway, they go through the cortex, and that information, on which was the foundation of that particular decision, the processing goes down and sits in a part not very far from the amygdala, but it's on the other side, and it's called the hippocampus. So this is the receptor, and this is, I think it looks like a box in my mind. It's not a box, but there's it's right here. And the long-term memory lives there. And all of the information is stored, and that's how we make those kinds of conclusions like, oh yeah, somebody burned a slice of toast, versus, pull the car over, we got to get some oil, don't drive it any further. That's the normal system. That's the peace mode. It's also known as parasympathetic. Now look, looks like I had some people and They don't care about this. Look, when you get upset, and your body goes into what most commonly we say the fight or flight mode, all of that short-term stuff, all of the senses information does not go through the cortex. There's too much, too fast. It's too difficult. There's survival is an issue, and bam, it goes right over to the hippocampus and it lives there. Doesn't get a chance to process. And what happens is then the rest of the body says, meh, 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 survival, survival. And the cortisol starts to run and the adrenaline starts to run. And the blood, that's why the cortex doesn't work. The thinking part brain doesn't work, because the blood drains down to other parts of the body, like your legs, so you can run away if it's a grizzly bear in front of you, or if you need to get out of the house because the house is on fire. It's automatic. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. It's automatic. Fight or flight. Also freeze. Sometimes when we're under that kind of pressure, your boss is yelling at you, or your child just fell out of a tree 5 feet up. You don't know what to do, you freeze. There's also a response called fawn. Now look, here's the thing. When there's an overload like that, which we've all been living in for over a year, on top of the way life, the pace of life, the stress of your job, your house, everything on you was already there, adding on all this health and virus, these issues. Most of us have had trouble functioning. But it's not because we can't think. It's not because there's something wrong with us. It's not because if I could just figure out how to balance these 87 responsibilities, I would be okay. It must be my fault. What's wrong with me? And the other message that we often get is, I have to try harder. That's not it. What has to happen, and that was the big revelation, well, I mean, I've been using that for the last year, but there's now research that supports and proves that when we come at these issues of overwhelm and anxiety and fear and all those things from the body's angle, because that's where the pain came in, that's where the pain sits, that's where the memories are, here in the hippocampus. Then we come in that way through the expressive arts, through physical action, activity, and so on. I mentioned that, I'm pretty sure, earlier, like yoga. Simple stretching. Actually, I have a new PT, and I've been finding that experience happening even though it's not trauma related. And so we can pay attention to what's going on with our body. We're having a hard day and the boss is asking for a meeting and we're pretty sure it's our evaluation and this is not going to be good. There are exercises and there are also, we need to be connected. That's the big thing I want to talk about today, really. Our mind and our body and our spirit. We're already out of balance, most of us. We're already out of balance of the mind and the body and the spirit because the pain rests in the body, and most of us are ignoring the body. Or we live in the body, and our life is haywire because we just keep responding to every emotion that runs through our body. And the thing to do first is to calm the nervous system, to calm the vagus nerve, which runs all the way down. And this has all been supported, and it was all discussed last week at the Trauma Foundation conference. That was amazing. So, the mind, body, spirit balance. That's what I wanted to really talk about today. First of all, to say this is how the body works. It's an automatic response. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not unbalanced in your mind, so to speak. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're not stupid. There's nothing wrong in that sense. We're under too much stress and our body is living in survival mode. And truly, most Americans are living there already. And we want to get the body to come out of survival mode and go back into peace mode, which is the healing. That's when the body can heal itself. That's why it's important to get a really good night's sleep. That's why It's one of the first things a medical person will ask you if you show certain kinds of symptoms. I know they ask me that. So, how's your sleep going? It's one of the chronic issues with people that are diagnosed with PTSD, which I prefer to call PTSS, post-traumatic survival skills. It's not a horrible syndrome and maladaptive thing. Their behaviors and effects on the system from staying alive. Post-traumatic survival skills. And those are the very skills that will help us to heal. Because the other thing that they talked about at the conference was how the brain, people used to think, and maybe that's what you're hanging on to, that we were born with a certain amount of brain cells, and those are all going to be what we have until we die. But that's not true. Our body actually can drop off cells and create with new cells, create new circuitry in our brain. So those negative habits and so on can, and damage that's been done by difficult traumatic situations. There's two kinds of trauma. There's trauma that's developmental trauma, and then there's trauma that is actually, I call it episodic, has to do with an episode. That was another new thing I learned at this conference, two types of trauma. And so we want to concentrate on the mind, body, spirit. I add the spirit in. The conference talked about the mind and body and just delicately mentioned this might be an area to consider because it maybe has an impact. But the mind, body, spirit balance, to get it on an even plane. Now, obviously, if we're out of balance, it's going to take us some time. But we begin with the body because that's where the trauma sits. That's where the stress sits, whether it's from something that we've carried for a long time or whether it's a recent incident. And so we get the balance straight and we stabilize the nervous system. We make sure that we're dealing with what is instead of living in our imagination. And then the spiritual aspect of our life, which for Christians, that's God, who God is. And it's important for that to be there anyway, because he's the one who created us. He's the source of the peace that we need. He made our bodies so they are in a healing state, in a healing mode. It's the stress that puts us over into the survival mode. So mind, body, spirit in balance. And the more we balance it out, never be quite perfect. And the stronger that balance is, the more healing there is. The pain, we need to go into that inner place, in the spiritually, the intimate, intangible place down inside, access it, so that we can touch with, it means you can't relive your memories, but we can deal with the pain. We can deal with the things that are in there. We have to go back where the injury happened. And that's what I find so exciting about this new pieces that have come to me through the conference as well, that the way to get there for those who know God, those who are believers in Jesus, that are Christians, the way to get there is through worship. Worship is the place. And it was thrilling to come to have it all fall into place this last week, because I've been talking about that for a long time. Worship is the answer. Worship is the answer. It's because we go into that, when we go to worship, mind, body, spirit, it's also the same place. It's the same intimate, intangible place where memories live, where the pain is, where the injuries are, that we meet Jesus, who is the healer. And as Holy Spirit raises those places where the injuries are, we take them to Jesus and he heals them. It comes back from the hippocampus, I forget which side, from the hippocampus, it comes back because we're safety, we're peaceful and so on. The memories, the injuries and so on come up and we can process them because we're safe and we're calm, and the cortex is back online, and we can think through these things. We can feel the feelings, sort them out, decide what we need, and get those things that we need. Our creativity blossoms and our life goes on. But it won't, as long as we continue to blame ourselves that we put ourselves in that spot. It's your own fault. If you just took time to do this or this or this to figure it out, then you'd be fine. It's all in your head. Don't you get tired of hearing that? I got tired of hearing that. Oh, I'm Sandra Allen Lovelace. I'm a life coach, and I'm the one who reaches out to women who are ready to shift from that status quo and move into a place of being whole and secure and free in our unique design and purpose. So if you're ready to come over here out of that and into this new person, put off the old and put on the new and live the abundant life, reach out. You can make a comment down below. If you know someone else that would be encouraged by this truth about it isn't just in your head, it's biological. Yes, the amygdala and the hippocampus and the cortex are in this place, but in order to access for full healing, the top-down people are all saying it now, they recognize it, and the bottom-up people with all their data are supporting the same thing. It's time to recognize the way our bodies really work, add in our spiritual dimension, and enjoy life. So you could like, you could comment, you could share. I'm going to be posting this over on YouTube as well. It's Thursdays at 3 and live. See you next week with my next What If. Bye-bye.